Good morning and welcome to Daybreak at Indian Preservation. As you can see, I'm in the magic shop this morning. Glad to be here with you today and my trusty cup of coffee. Today I want to talk a little bit about why I use the approved government standards for preserving food. My parents moved to the country when I was about 9 years old, and we were advised to go visit Miss Judy over at the county extension office. Judy was a home extension agent, and we walked into her office, and every flat surface that she had, whether it was horizontal or vertical, was filled with printed publications about anything you needed to take care of your household. Judy was a wealth of information and a great listener. She found out that my mom wanted to learn how to pressure can and water bath can, how to pickle, and how to freeze food safely. So she packaged up that information for us. She also included a lot of recipes for the items that we were growing in the garden, as well as anything that was growing wild in the area. One of my first memories of canning was the wild Mustang grapes that grew along the dirt road where we lived. And after a long day of work, it was wonderful. It was rewarding to see that deep purple, crystal clear jelly inside of that jar and all over the kitchen. Yeah, it was pretty messy that day, but we learned how to keep it a little cleaner as we went along. Um, Over the next several years, we visited Judy frequently, and she always kept us up to date on any new changes about food preservation, as well as any new recipes that came out or things that she tried that she thought we would like. Judy made such an impression on me that after I graduated from college and moved out on my own, when I went to new areas, I always checked in with the Extension Service just to find out what was new and what were the local things that I could preserve in that area. Um, and as long as we followed the guidelines, we were successful at whatever we did. If we had failures, it was normally due to a lid that was misformed or a jar that we had not checked correctly. About the mid 1990s, one of my coworkers asked if I would help his wife can some peach jam over the weekend. And I was happy to do that. And when I showed up at her place on Saturday, she had these gorgeous peaches, and we started peeling them and making jam. And she packed them hot into jars, wiped the rims, put on the lids and rings, and then turned the jars upside down. And I said, "Aren't you going to water bath those?" And she's like, "No, no, don't have to. Uh, I've always used this inversion method and it works really well." I'm going, "Is it safe to eat?" And she said, "Oh yeah, it's the same as putting paraffin on top of your jellies." And I'm going, "But that's not an approved method anymore." She said, "Well, this is different because it has a sealed lid on it." I still wasn't convinced, but it was her peaches, so I helped her. She gave me a few jars to take home, and I put them in my pantry, anxious to eat them over the next few months. And I was so disappointed that in 2 months, that beautiful golden color started to darken. And by 6 months, those peaches were a deep caramel color. The lids easily popped off with your fingertips, and the peaches smelled sour. So I had to throw them all away. So all that time and money and effort was in the trash. I tried those peaches again the next summer using the water bath method, exact same recipe, and they were beautiful. They lasted a year in the jars, um, and then I ran out. So I'm sure they would have lasted a little longer. But yeah, water bath method definitely worked for those peaches. So I stuck with that system. Several years later, I started seeing on YouTube a lot of women using a no-soak method for canning dry beans. Well, growing up, we always canned fresh beans. We never had dried beans that we canned. Um, so I started looking for reasons why not to do it this way, and couldn't find anything except these women saying that using the quick soak method or the long soak method, the beans were mushy and they just lacked the firmness. And I thought, okay, I'll give this a shot. So I filled my canner, 18 jars full of beans, and when I took them out, I was severely disappointed. The beans at the top of the jar obviously had not sat in enough liquid. They were much smaller than the beans that had been fully soaked and hydrated. Within a month, those beans started to turn a very dark color, and they just didn't look appetizing at all. On top of that, almost immediately, the starch was so thick around the beans that I had to scrape them out of the jar, to the point it was almost like scooping ice cream out of a carton. And I couldn't even put them in a dish because the starch was so thick, so I had to rinse them off. By that time, the beans had no flavor. So I was just adding filler to chili, or they were flavorless refried beans. I was just not happy with the product. So I discarded those beans. Again, more wasted time and money and effort. But I recanned the beans again using the quick soak method, and contrary to what I heard on YouTube, this actually worked very, very well. The beans are cooked to perfection, and they're all covered with the right amount of liquid. So again, that was affirmation that I need to continue to use the approved methods that have been fully tested in laboratories that have the proper equipment and the right educated people doing this task. One final thought, the other thing that I've realized, and it came as a shock to me, is I looked in the mirror one day and go like, oh my gosh, you're old. And with age, as we all know, comes susceptibility to infections and diseases. Your body's more fragile. Recovery is a lot slower. And the last thing I need to do is compromise my health, because if I do that, then I can't take care of my family. So I'm very careful about following the advice in people that say, hey, you need to do this because it's quick and easy. And I've just decided that I am not going to compromise my family's quality of life for my convenience. So just so you know, I have always had success using the approved methods and the approved recipes. I just wanted to share that with you and let you know where I stand in food preservation. Still, it's something I enjoy. I don't find that the approved methods are any more time consuming than these so-called shortcuts. So keep preserving and keep healthy food on your table and take care of your family. God bless you all, and we'll see you next time on Indian Preservation.